Alright guys, so this is the first time that I am ever using this Screencast-O-Matic tool to be able to annotate over the top of some of my videos. So bear with me as we give this a try and hopefully it goes well. Today we will be looking at and reviewing evaluating expressions. Um, and we will be using the order of operations to do that. So we're going to start today with the order of operations. I know it is a review from last year. We spent plenty of time on this topic last year. So why do we need an order of operations? Um, it's basically so that we can all get the same answer. No matter where you are in the world, um, math is a universal language, so we need to be able to make sure that everybody gets the same answer, whether you're in China or Japan or whatever. Last year we talked to it as being PEMDAS. This year we're going to use PERMDAS, and the P is the same. It stands for parentheses. Parentheses are what's happening inside. E is exponents. The R is the new one that stands for radicals. It's a fancy way to say the square root of something. For the example, the square root of 4. The M and the D stand again for multiply and divide. The A and S are still add and subtract. But remember, when we do the multiply and divide portions and the add and subtract portions of these, you start at the left and you go to the right no matter what. Even if division or subtraction are first in that problem, if those are the steps that you're on and it's on the left of that problem, do it first. Okay, so here's a few examples. Remember, we are going to use PERMDAS, parentheses, exponents, radicals, multiply, divide, add, subtract. In this first problem, we have two sets of parentheses, so we do that first. 5 minus 3 is 2. 6 times 2 is 12. Then we're left down with 12 plus 2 for a final answer of 14. The second one, there is no parentheses, so we move right into the exponents. Also remember that dot means multiply. Hopefully you remember that an exponent means times itself, so 5 to the power of 2 is equal to 25. We take that and multiply that by 3, and now we are up to 75 for a final answer. Why don't you take a few minutes to try these next two on your own? Hopefully you get the correct answers. This next question, division comes first. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Then we subtract these problems for a final answer of 18. The last one, notice that it is 40 divided by 4 times 5, right? So we have division, then multiplication. This is where that rule start from left to right comes into play. You have to do the division first. You have to start on the left. So we do 40 divided by 4 is 10. Multiply that by 5 at the end, and now we have 50. Hopefully that wasn't too fast. The reason I'm doing it on this video is so that you can pause, rewind, whatnot. Um, and then we have now some new vocabulary because remember at the beginning we said that we wanted to do some. Um, our ultimate goal is evaluating expressions. An expression is something that has a letter in it. Okay, it has a variable in it. So remember, a variable is a letter that represents a number. It could be X, it could be Y, it could be Z, it could be any letter of the alphabet that could come into play for these expressions. Um, and an algebraic expression, the ones that we're going to be looking at, is a mathematical sentence with variables, numbers, and symbols. For example, 4x plus 2. Okay? or 2x divided by 7, or the square root of 2 times y. All of those are examples of a mathematical sentence. And then again in the learning target, remember we said that we were going to evaluate these expressions. When we do evaluating of expressions, the first step that we're going to look at is to replace that variable with a number and put it inside of parentheses. The reason that we put it inside of parentheses is just to try to keep us notified of whether we're multiplying or adding or subtracting or whatnot. So after we replace or substitute those variables with the numbers in parentheses, step 2 is going to be use PEMDAS or PERMDAS, or the order of operations, to solve that problem. That's why we started with the order of operations at the beginning of this lesson, right? So here's a few examples of that. First one, evaluate 15x divided by 10 plus y. That is the algebraic expression. We also know that the variables x equals 4 and y equals 7 are true. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to replace those variables, those letters within that current problem, with what those letters or variables actually stand for. So we're going to replace that x with a 4. See how I put it in parentheses? Continue with that divided by 10. There was no variable there, so it stays the same. And then finally replace that y with the 7 and put that inside the parentheses. Once we have that, now we just have an expression where we can use the order of operations. We use PERMDAS again, parentheses, exponents, radicals, multiply, divide, add, subtract, with those variables in place of those, or those numbers in place of those variables, right? So there's no parentheses, really. There are, but we can't do anything inside. There's no exponents or radicals in this case, so now we move to multiplication and division. When a number is right next to parentheses, that means multiply. So we're going to start with 15 times 4, which equals 60. Rewrite the problem so that we can continue with our steps. Now division, 60 divided by 10 is 6. Again, rewrite the rest of it. Now we're done with multiply and divide, so add and subtract for a final answer of 13. Let's go on to that last example there. X plus the quantity of y, 5 minus y to the power of 2, when x equals 8 and y equals 2. Again, the first step is going to be to substitute those variables with those values and put them inside of parentheses. Okay? So we're going to replace that x right there in that problem with an 8. We're going to continue on with the plus 5 minus, replace the y variable with that 2, and finish off with the power of 2. Make sure that the only things that change in that expression are the variables. Everything else should stay the same. And again, after you substitute those variables for in the expression, follow along with parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Inside that set of parentheses, we can do 5 minus 2 for 3, rewrite the rest of the expression. Now we have exponents and radicals. We have a power of 2. Remember, that means that number times itself twice. So 3 times 3 is 9, plus that 8. There's no multiply or divide, so add and subtract for a final answer of 17. Whew, that was a lot of information, right? I know that was a lot of information, but the reason that I decided to do this lesson this way in the video was, again, so that you could pause it like I did. Sometimes you can rewind it like this. You won't be able to go forward because there's going to be Edpuzzle videos, obviously. but you can always go back to this video and rewind it and watch it again and pause it when needed. I hope this helps. Again, if you have any questions, please pop back into this chat or into the Google Meet and ask your questions.